All right. Hi, everyone. My name is British Griffiths, and I'm a part of the SIFPAC support team. Welcome to the end of day one of the Supplier Development Summit hosted by the Good Food Purchasing Initiative team. Together with our partners, were working to make Chicagoland's food system more equitable and transparent, centered on food that's local, sustainable, fair, humane, and nutritious. That means shifting how institutions buy food through the Good Food Purchasing Program, while also uplifting suppliers with resources and gatherings like this summit. Thank you for joining Feeding Possibility, Farmer Success Stories Across Food Service Spectrum, featuring the Alex Franz and Elise Pelletier. And I will hand it over to you two ladies. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. We are really excited to be here. We were able to tune into some of the other sessions earlier in the day and can't speak highly enough about this programming. I just feel like there's some really concrete things that have been talked through today from all different elements of supplier development and success. So yeah, this is really an honor to be a part of day one, and we're excited for tomorrow too. So my name's Alex. I am with Midwest Foods, and we are a woman-owned, family-owned, locally owned produce distributor located in Chicago. And Elise, you want to introduce yourself too, and then we'll go into our full intros.
Yeah. So I'm Elise. I'm the local sustainability coordinator at Midwest Foods. So Alex and I are the local sustainability team of two at Midwest.
Yes. So just briefly, my background, I'm originally from the suburbs here in Chicago. My passion for food system work started in college. I am very excited by the interconnected impact of food, how it's grown, how it affects people who eat it, how it affects the environment, animal welfare, all the different things that are actually very aligned with GFPP. So I organized college and university students to advocate for more sustainable food in their dining halls. And then I went on to work for a third-party certification for animal welfare and pasture-based management for 4 years, working directly with farmers to support them in obtaining certification and then marketing that certification. And then I have been with Midwest Foods since 2019 as the director of local and sustainability. So tying together working with farmers and working with chefs in food service.
And so again, my name's Elise. I'm originally from like Southwest Michigan, so not too far from the city of Chicago. But the area that I'm from was very agriculturally rich. So I grew up working on farms. I worked on farms in college. But I also, in addition to more of like the growing side, I was like my family ran a local like small catering company. So I like had a lot of experience with food service. I've held a lot of jobs in food service even since I've lived in Chicago. Um, and also previously had a role here in Chicago working on like food waste education and food waste prevention initiatives, mostly in K through 12 schools, but also some composting, almost like consulting with local municipalities. So working at Midwest in this local sustainability role, which I've been here for about a year and a half now, is like really a culmination of all of those experiences, getting to work with both farms and chefs on the food service side. And doing some sustainability things as well. So it's awesome to be here talking to you today because one of the things I'm most passionate about is working with farms to help them navigate different market channels, especially some of the ones that we're going to talk about today in food service. So again, Alex mentioned that Midwest Foods is a locally owned, woman-owned, family-owned, all of the owned things, located in Chicago. We have the main, one of our main warehouses here in Chicago, and then the other one is in Kenosha in Wisconsin. We are family owned, like I mentioned, is actually a group of 7 siblings that started Midwest. It's a second generation sort of endeavor because they originally in 1959 had another company called Finer Foods where their parents started that one, their dad did. And then they sort of reinvigorated it in the late 90s, and now it is what it is today. So they have decades of experience, very dedicated to providing quality products to chefs, but also supporting local farmers and we're also woman owned. So of those siblings, two of the sisters are the main owners, and we're proud to be a women's business enterprise.
So I feel like a lot of the programming earlier today, I know probably not everyone was able to catch everything, but has really been diving into this food service spectrum, right? So we proudly serve schools and universities, hospitals, senior living, restaurants, country clubs, stadiums, museums, hotels, corporate offices, airports, and then we did include produce box programs in here as well, because that has been a huge kind of separate combined food as medicine like sector that we've seen growth in. And so we wanted to kind of contextualize like the stories that we're going to be sharing today come from the perspective that we hold in our specific kind of piece of the supply chain, and how I think that fits into a lot of the different kind of broader trends and structures that folks discussed today about the different ways that these types of food service locations can be set up. And part of the reason that we're talking about food service as an opportunity, I wanted to share this one slide. So spending at food service outlets has outpaced spending at food retailing outlets or food at home since 2004. So clearly you can see the little dip in 2020 due to the pandemic, but besides that, really the majority of food is, or food at away from home is on the rise. And so when you're looking at markets to be able to sell product as a local supplier, food away from home just continues to grow. And that does look like things that are more fun and leisure based, like a restaurant, but also things like hospitals and universities and senior living. So just wanted to share some of that context, because that's part of what we do as a food service distributor, is connect into that growing market. And I know in the description as well, we kind of detailed how that often is also a more resilient market to different types of shifts and changes that can happen, that can be kind of destabilizing for businesses in terms of market opportunities. So these markets tend to be more stable in terms of consistent buying. And then they're also growing in terms of everything you can imagine too, from like an independent restaurant to like a fast casual restaurant chain, which if anyone has stayed up on how well Chili's has been doing this year, for example, there's a lot of different types of ways that different types of restaurants are being successful right now because of trends with availability and capacity and people being able to cook at home versus eating away from home. So one other important thing about the stories that we're going to share today, we wanted to talk a little bit about our relationships with chefs and kind of Midwest context. So we really focus on being relational rather than transactional, regardless of the setup. But we wanted to kind of explain some of the ways that we work with different chefs at different food service management companies or self-operated locations. So distributors can be a preferred distributor. This typically means that there's a contract in place and the chef is required to buy from that distributor. So that might mean that they have to go to the distributor first to see if they have it in stock, or it might be defined on a percentage basis, such as 80%, 90% of X category has to be spent with a certain distributor. Distributors can also be approved. So that means that they've gone through an onboarding process to be able to sell to the hospital or school. And then the chef has an account, but they're not required to buy. So they might be interested in buying because the distributor has things other distributors don't, or because the distributor is building that relationship actively to maintain that relationship with the chef and try to get that business. And then the final piece is the open competitive. So there's no contract in place and the sales team is actively bringing on new accounts and competing to retain those accounts. So that also means that from a customer service, quality, food safety perspective, that that's not guaranteed business. Those are things that every day folks are making sure that that chef is placing that order with one person, with you versus someone else. So Midwest Foods exists in all three of these types of setups. And that does inform the types of success that we're able to work with farmers to achieve.
Right. Sorry, my cat is crawling all over. So sorry if you hear any meows. But we want to talk a little bit about like our local mission and our approach to local sales before we got into some of the stories. So just briefly first, we have a local mission at Midwest Foods, and it is to support local farmers and strengthen our regional food system. So we'll just move pretty quick through some of these slides. We consider our role to be to save farmers, growers, all of our suppliers time, and then open reliable new sales channels. So in the time saving side, it's that we're managing these one-on-one relationships with like a very wide variety of customers. We are doing marketing upfront with all of our customers. We're doing deliveries. We're managing orders. So we're trying to save as much time for our farm partners and our other supplier partners, so that they can do what they do best, whether that's growing or processing or whatever type of product they might provide for us. And then opening reliable new sales channels, which is going to be a big thing that we're going to talk about here through the food service spectrum. Maybe accessing different markets that would be traditionally more difficult to access directly. Another part of our local approach, in addition to selling whole products to these different outlets, we also have an edible cuts line, which is processed products. And we have grab and go, which is things like sandwiches and wraps and salads, yogurt cups, things of the like that we make ourselves. All of our local products, if it's in the right quantity, the right spec, we use those in the same way as we do non-local products for both edible cuts and grab and go. So it's not just whole product of the local product that we're selling to chefs, it's also these value added products as well. And then another part of our approach that I think is the most interesting is our sort of two-pronged approach is what we call it, to selling local to our customers, or local products, I should say. So one of the ways we do this is local by default. So this means that during local growing seasons for specific products, the single item code for a specific product will switch over to be sourced from the local growing region during that time of year. So rather than having a bunch of different codes from different farms, there's one code for cucumbers. All of the cucumbers that our customers buy, they'll be getting the local option by default. Another option that I kind of just mentioned is having more of a curated local option, where we have farm specific codes that we are marketing to our customers specifically as like these are a specific type of carrot sourced from a specific farm. Both options help us meet the needs of our customers and are what I think makes us really successful in getting local into all these different markets.
Yeah, so today we wanted to focus on stories of success for local suppliers that we work with. So we have done other presentations, and we'll have a forum at the end of the, and I think we'll have some time for questions too, if you're interested in working with us or have more specific questions about how to work with us. But we wanted to just kind of talk about some of the different types of needs and desires and perspectives across food service sectors that are helping to drive demand that we see that we don't always talk about. I think that in kind of the institution space, there's a lot of discussion of like K-12 schools, universities lead in this space for sure. So we wanted to kind of draw out some of the other examples of the types of accounts that support growth from local suppliers year over year. So we're going to be talking about the needs and desires and perspectives of the sectors, and then how the local suppliers with different models and years of experience align with those different types of needs. So we know this is a supplier development summit, so we tried to frame things kind of within the idea of a 0 to 10 year of experience with farming and an interest in wholesale. Or business ownership in terms of like kind of that 0 to 10 year. So we're going to kind of talk about what it looks like for folks who are more in the beginning farmer, intermediate stage, and then more experienced, and kind of the types of opportunities that they're able to leverage and the types of successes that they've had. And we'll also try to talk about how long we've worked with folks and kind of their general model and business approach, but sort of those additional feasibility factors that influence their growth and what long-term success looks like, which we will also say, not every business is going to define success in the same way. These are just like market opportunities and growth that we've seen, but we know a lot of the local suppliers that we work with have other, mission-driven components of their business and things like that. So this is not a comprehensive treatise on all of those factors. These are just kind of some highlights, and we do encourage you to ask questions. I personally can't see the chat. Elise, can you see the chat? If anybody chimes in, yeah, if you have questions as we go along, please let us know.
So we're going to jump into our first story of success here. And you'll notice we have them broken up by farm or food business, with some of the sectors where we've seen success. It's not an exhaustive list of all the sectors where this product ends up and where we see success, but we just wanted to show you some fun stories. So Windy City Harvest, the story I wanted to share here was earlier this year, I had a chef from a senior living community reach out. And he wanted to host a sort of farmers market pop-up style event for his residents. And he wanted to host a sort of farm to table style dinner to follow it up. So he came to the right place because that's what me and Alex do. That's why we're at Midwest Foods, is to help people like feature local on their menus to whatever capacity they're able. And so we met, we talked a little bit about like what types of items he was looking for, what types of things he wanted to menu. And he even specifically mentioned Windy City Harvest because he knows about their mission. They're a staple here in Chicago. So we picked out some items for him, and it was mostly beets. We did some carrots. I think that was, we also did sun gold tomatoes. You can see here, yep, down here in the corner, there's a picture on the left side. That was from the market that we hosted, where we had some of their sun gold tomatoes available for the residents to pick up. And then we also highlighted it in the farm dinner. This story is unique to me because for a farm like Windy City Harvest, I guess I can give some background just in case anyone isn't familiar with Windy City first. We work with Windy City. We've been working with them since like the early 2000s. They have an incubator program where many smaller farmers, they are given plots. It's about 1/8 of an acre, and they all grow together on a farm, this bigger farm plot that's divided up. And they have the opportunity, in addition to some like shared infrastructure and some educational support, to sell through Windy City, and we are the wholesale buyer for Windy City. So our model has been that we basically just take whatever they have available to us. And it can be like a pretty large variety of products in a given order that we pick up from them, anywhere from like 1 case to like 50 cases. It just depends on what they have. The reason this story is unique is because I think often you hear in wholesale that this type of model can be difficult for wholesale distributors to work with, because they need maybe more reliable quantities from week to week to be able to promote and supply those types of products from the farm to their customers, especially in senior living and hospitals, because they're looking to like remenu the same things and need to feed lots of people. But this is an example of how like a pop-up style event or like a special dinner where they're looking to bring local to whoever the community is that they serve. In this case, it was senior residents at this senior living community. And like, and how we can make that work for them because we have this existing relationship with Windy City. The chef himself was really interested in the farm story and is looking for that uniqueness and the variety of product that sometimes is a challenge for distributors. So something I also wanted to point out is one of the ways we're able to be successful in doing sort of one-off events like this and featuring more varied product like this from like a smaller source of growers is because our Windy City's purchases and our sales are very much anchored by box programs, which Alex mentioned earlier in our presentation. So we have a couple different box programs that we build the boxes for, many of which have goals related to like how much of the box program, whether it's prescription produce or other types of like community-based box programs, that they want to have so much local or so much organic or so much of like certain values-based categories in the boxes. So when we buy Windy City and we take whatever they have for us, much of that product we're able to put in the boxes, and it kind of serves as an anchor for us to be able to move these more variable quantities and types of products. But then we have the flexibility and the exciting opportunity when a chef reaches out to us and they want to do a special menu to get this product in front of them, not only just for that event, but also hoping that it's something that we can continue to grow the sales with them because they have this product in front of them and they see how awesome it is and how easy it is to get through us. Yeah, someone raising their hand, you're welcome to ask a question if you have one about this specific story.
I thank you. The chef came to you. I'm going to make sure I got this straight. The
Yeah.
chef came to you. You buy produce from Windy City,
Mhm.
but you did not put the event on, correct? The chef did the dinner, or did you become involved in the production of the event?
Yeah, so actually, we do get involved when there's like a market style event. That's one of the things we do to try to get more local product in front of our customers is that we have like a market program where they purchase the product the way that they normally would through us. We require like a certain spend with us, and it has to all be local product from our local farm partners. And then we help them like manage the market and set it up, build the display. But all of the product is owned by them, so it de-risks sort of the experience of bringing a farm directly out to the site where their products might not all sell. And they then the kitchen themselves owns all of the product, and then they can either give it away or they can sell at like whatever price point they want to sell back to their customers, but then or whoever their client base is, and in this case it's the senior residents. But then for the dinner itself, the chef put that on. We just helped him pick out the items, and then he built the menu, and then we also provided him with some information about the farm so he could like put that on the menu to say like
Okay.
carrots are from this farm.
And his motivation was this a profit center for him, a profit?
No,
No, it
yeah,
was
this that's a good question because specifically, I should say that for this instance, the chef in like the dining services at the senior living community is all self-operation. So what that means, I don't know if anyone was in H's presentation earlier today. Many of the institutions we work with are food service managed, so they are food service management companies are the ones that are like running their food service. But here they're just self-operation. He is the chef at the senior living community. He wasn't doing it for profit. It was just like a resident sort of
sure
like
a wonderful
do
feel
something
good
fun for them. Yeah.
fun for them, yeah,
Right.
in the senior facility.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, and to clarify, I mean, it is typically a for-profit model that he's operating in, but the dinner itself, I don't think he charged anything additional for the residents to be able to participate. It was just like a fun event for them to be able to do. Is that correct, Elise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Does that get your question, Carla?
that answers. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. I think that that was mostly what I wanted to say here, other than that, maybe pointing out, even though Windy City Harvest is like a very specific example because their programming is specific and maybe not applicable to all growers that might be on this call or part of this development summit. Um, it is an example of how Midwest Foods has been able to leverage working with growers that are at a scale where they're growing lots of different products in varying quantities, but still making that work for our customer base and for our programs like the Veggie RX Box program. Yeah, and especially if you are like a beginning grower too, that is like maybe looking to go to wholesale opportunities with other growers too. This is just like one of the ways that we've seen success in that type of a model.
Yeah, so really like this is maybe something someone could see themselves in if you're maybe in the first couple of years of business, if wholesale is new to you, or if you're looking to grow alongside other farmers to sell together.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Good question too, and we will move on. So, so, does anyone recognize the image in the center of the bulls running down the street? Again, I can't see the chat, but
Yes, we have a yes. Love it.
we have a few. Yeah, did we have a few yeses? Okay.
At least one.
So this iconic image is from the height of the Chicago Bulls in the 90s when they were winning all of the championships. And again, as a kid who grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, it was really incredible to see the Bulls, but then also, the other great sports teams that we have. The White Sox winning in 2005, the Cubs, the Bears. Well, I mean, we have a lot of pride regardless of how our teams perform, right? But growing up, I was very, I spent time at all these different types of sports stadiums, and also at cultural institutions like the Shedd Aquarium, and just kind of these iconic Chicago things. And so I was very excited to see that several of the food service management companies that service places like United Center and their stadium, why is it Soldier Field? Sorry, are committed to supporting local farmers. And so earlier this year, we were able to work with some folks that work at that food service management company. And they had an intern specifically dedicated to researching local product and to trying to tell stories to the chefs at different institutions. And I will say that, like, this is also an example of something where there is sort of, H's presentation also mentioned this, supply chain has great resources on this stuff, but we're not trying to overinflate the enthusiasm that each individual chef might have at a given place. But what happens is it is typically a bell curve where you have some folks that are really excited, some folks that are just like happy to receive the product, and then some folks that are harder to get on board with things. And so these types of examples, these stadiums and museums, are a pathway of success for Chicago Urban Farm Solutions because of the way that our relationship with Chicago Urban Farm Solutions has grown. So Chicago Urban Farm Solutions started out as an incubator with the Windy City Harvest Program, and then expanded onto 20 acres and decided to grow a few different items at a larger scale. So kale and lettuce mix, which I mentioned here, that are featured in these sports stadiums. And then also continuing to do variety for other types of markets. And so Chicago Urban Farm Solutions is an example of sort of an intermediate stage business where they've been around since like 2021. We've worked with them since then. And because of the growth, they have been able to be menued both at places that, like Elise had explained at the beginning, things where we switch to their items by default. So like when we're selling kale, every chef is going to get kale from Chicago Urban Farm Solutions. But then we also have, for example, the lettuce mix, which is a little bit higher priced than a conventional lettuce mix. And so chefs are intentionally seeking out and menuing that lettuce mix because they are looking to support this specific farm and specifically underrepresented growers, which include beginning farmers, but also BIPOC farmers, things like that. So both of those are ways that, in looking at, for example, the sales that we've been able to do with those types of institutions in 2025, I see it both ways. I see some of it is going to different stadiums because it's the default and they're ordering kale, and then some of it is because they're intentionally making sure that they're buying that lettuce mix. So that's an example of how we can also work together over multiple seasons to grow success, but also we kind of wanted to talk about the different types of institutions that really do underpin the total volume that we can do with someone. So this is where, if you're getting up to a couple hundred cases a week, that doesn't come exclusively from like a university or a school. It's also all these other types of institutions, and honestly, some that kind of step up and are even buying more than any of those individual institutions might buy. So another story that I wanted to tell about some of the growth that we've seen with Chicago Urban Farm Solutions is also success in fast casual chain restaurants. So coincidentally, I was at the Crosstown Classic this year at the Cubs game, and Cubs Sox game, and was able to connect with the sustainability director and supply chain manager for a fast casual restaurant chain that does salads. And this is also sort of the unspoken element of relationship building throughout the supply chain too, because this is someone that I have known again since 2021, I think, when she started in her role. And like, as she has evolved in her role and like been able to take on more responsibility, so have I, but then we both know each other. And so there's sort of this like evolution that's happening where then we're getting into, okay, we have the supply chain set up. How can we go to the next level in terms of highlighting local growers and telling better stories at the restaurants? So that is also something we're seeing growth in. And the other reason that we had connected prior to this year was because they do a lot of sustainability reporting. So the other piece that's really supporting the success of this type of sourcing is when the buyer has some sort of reporting element, like they're B Corp certified, and they like need data about where their products are coming from and if there's any types of production attributes, and then how far away it is and things like that. So this kind of combination of the availability, both as a default item and as a specialized item, but then also this emphasis on reporting, really makes it possible to continue to grow what we're doing with Chicago Urban Farm Solutions. And I will say that some things that kind of set them up for success was that they did come into kind of the land access opportunity with this foundational knowledge of food safety and quality and consistency, which does become more and more important as that default item consideration gets put into play. So focusing on those fewer, higher volume items, and then bringing in the food safety and quality training knowledge that they had gained in Windy City Harvest, and then being able to activate that with a land access opportunity through Conservation Fund made that possible. But I think this story is an example of how a business kind of in an intermediate stage, so a couple years into business, growing maybe a little bit more volume, can find success and be menued at different types of iconic places like the United Center.
Okay, so next we wanted to talk about Sunny Oaks Farm. And the story I wanted to share here, you see that video, I hope everyone can see it playing in the bottom left corner. So I was actually traveling earlier this year, and as the plane was pulling out from O'Hare, I see a Midwest Foods truck on the tarmac, which was a crazy experience for me to see that. But we're there. We have quite a few different customers throughout sort of the airport ecosystem. So we're there most days during the week. But one of the most exciting stories is about May and her mushroom. So May is the owner of Sunny Oaks Farm. She started her business in 2017. She grows shiitake, oyster, and lion's mane mushrooms for us mostly. But the most exciting thing here is that some of the airlines within the airport actually have menu items that feature both shiitake and oyster mushrooms, and are buying like pretty large quantities from us every single week. And the way that we're able to make that happen, actually, you know what? I should say this first. The best part of this story, I think, is May is like a pretty close friend of Alex and mine through our work. And we were chatting with her one day, and I think I just like mentioned offhand something about her product being at the airport while saying some different places where her product ends up. And she was so shocked by that, like just couldn't even believe that her mushrooms would be at O'Hare. Like that is just like a crazy thing to conceive. And that kind of reminded both Alex and I that sometimes selling to a distributor can kind of feel like a black box, like you're selling your product, you're not really sure where it goes. And that's why it's really special for us to be able to meet in these types of summits like we are, so we can share these stories, like where different product can end up when you work with a distributor like Midwest. And on top of just like being very transparent with our own growers and sharing with them where their things end up. So I also wanted to mention really quick too, literally, I think 2 days ago, I got a request from like like office building food service group that works with us, asking me to share some information about the local products that they buy from us, because they're trying to highlight some of those products in the corporate offices that they work in. And I took a look, and they had quite a few cases every single week of Sunny Oaks mushrooms. Really speaks to another approach that we see from our like partners or customers, in how they're looking to get local on their menu. Some chefs, like the chef from the senior living community, they reach out and they're like, what do you have that's local? I want to highlight it. Other chefs are like kind of retroactive, like what have I been buying? Because they know that we have all of these local options that are sometimes local by default. So they just get them without even picking them out per se. And that is one of the reasons why this story and this works, like why this is so successful, is that Sunny Oaks has the quality, volume, and sort of price that works for us to be able to meet all of the demands of our customers. So we carry her shiitake, oyster, and also lion's mane mushrooms as our default mushroom option all year round. We don't carry any other brand of mushrooms from any other grower for those 3 varieties. So if you're getting those mushrooms from us, it's going to be Sunny Oaks. And that's what it makes it so successful here. Especially, we've seen a lot of growth in this as basically like every sector is looking for more plant-based menu options. Local and sustainability was like the #1 trend in 2025 for the National Restaurant Association. Part of that sustainability movement is definitely like a big eye on plant-based menu options. So we've definitely seen growth in sales of mushrooms, and it's awesome to be able to, by default, have all of the mushrooms that people are buying from us of those 3 varieties be Sunny Oaks by default.
So talking about, so that was kind of our, both Chicago Urban Farm Solutions and Sunny Oaks are examples of kind of that intermediate stage that's going to be like a couple hundred cases a week, maybe, growing up to that over a couple seasons, but also, years in business, things like that. So we're kind of moving into, we wanted to share some examples of folks that are a little bit more established, more towards that 10-year mark or a little bit beyond, and how that shows up in terms of building towards these types of opportunities over time. So I did just want to share in the bottom left corner, that is my family. So I wanted to ground in the fact that independent restaurants do play a large role in the demand for local. A lot of growers and local suppliers sell directly to restaurants, but when there are restaurant groups, they often operate a little bit more like a food service management company or like a group buying organization, like a GPO. And so we have had a lot of success in working with the larger independent chains to connect them to local suppliers. And, these are, I think food service is so powerful because it might be, an experience that you're having that's specific, like being in school or being in college or being, at a sports stadium, like I said, but also I wanted to share that photo because that is at Wildfire Restaurants. And I have just like so many family memories of like my sister's 18th birthday. And then like in that picture, my grandmother's 90th birthday, right? So like, these are really the places that, when we see growth and success in sales of these local items, this is also, there's an intersection here with like some of the most meaning making moments that we have as people with our families and with our communities. So I was really excited to see that there was a lot of support for local from independent restaurant groups. Then also you have things like catering companies that kind of build on this idea, like weddings and other sort of like once in a lifetime, or for you if you're getting married or gathering your community together, that these types of items are menued in those situations. So Schilling Family Farms and Very Delicious, they're both located in Michigan. Schilling is a multi-generation family farm, but the kind of current generation took over in 2018 and kind of reformulated some things with the business. And it's been really great working with them. This is actually our first season working with them, and we have been able to work up to, as you can see on the left, multiple pallets and like truckload volumes with them. So it's been incredibly successful. It is always a trial when it's like we're new to them and they're new to us, and to see how successful we can be. But it was an incredible opportunity to work with them. From a quality and consistency perspective, that is key for us to be able to kind of lean into really shifting most of the tomato business to local tomatoes consistently. And then Berry Delicious Farms, also located in Michigan. He has a really incredible story, was kind of started farming. Actually, Sunny Oaks did this too. A lot of folks start farming because they want to spend more time with their children, which again, just kind of gets back to that family connection and tie-in. But slowly built the business over the years so that he could go to it full time. And then has been working with us over the past couple seasons to kind of be the local blueberry that we do by default seasonally. It's a very short season, but again, like at this kind of, because of the type of items that tomatoes and blueberries are, they show up in a lot of different type of menus. So a shiitake mushroom might have different kind of peak volume than something like a blueberry or tomato because of the way that they're menued and how they're incorporated into things. So we also see success for these growers, and hopefully ongoing success in being able to do more business with them when we look at opportunities like conference centers, and also manufacturing. So on the right, I have there's a blueberry parfait that we do at Midwest Foods, but we also do see a lot of purchases of blueberries for folks that we sell to that make other types of products like meal kits or other avenues like that. So those are some of the other ways that that demand is continuously being built for local. And both of those family farms were in a position to trial sales with us and then grow. And then this is also where we see a combination of dedicated commitments to local sourcing, but then also just that high use ingredient. So I have casinos on here because we actually did have an example of a casino in Indiana who is very dedicated to supporting underrepresented farms and came out to farm tours. And like that type of engagement can also really take things to the next level in terms of commitments and success and being able to grow sales opportunities over time. And then the last example that we wanted to share, Phoenix Bean Tofu. So this is more on the local supplier. If you're a different type of vendor, not maybe necessarily farming, we wanted to share this example. And this is not only an example of how it can be success that's driven by one entity, but also how success catalyzes growth across the whole spectrum of food service. So earlier this year, we got a request from Northwestern, and they were looking at local tofu options because that increased in plant-based offerings, and looking to see if they could weave in a local offering instead of just the tofu that they had been buying previously. That was initially challenging because it was a little bit more expensive, and there was a little bit of back and forth on whether or not they were willing to commit if it were more expensive. But at the corporate level, the food service management company at the university had created a dedicated local program that was highlighting Phoenix Bean, called Grow With Us, that did set up sort of pricing and marketing support. So there was a little bit of buy-in ready to go to kind of support the success or to move things forward. And so we looked at our own usages for tofu as across all of the different sectors that we've talked about today. So all those different types of locations might buy tofu. And we were able to basically go back and say, if we were able to increase the volume to make it worth it to get to the competitive price point, that we would switch all of our tofu over to Phoenix Bean. And so we were able to do that. And that is awesome because it means that now all of our clients are able to receive Phoenix Bean by default. It's also just like better quality product. If you don't know Phoenix Bean, we highly recommend look up their story. Jenny, who's on the right-hand side down there with Elise and I, incredible story. Jenny's kids loved tofu and soy milk, couldn't eat dairy. Phoenix Bean had been in the community for a long time. They bought from Phoenix Bean, and then they were going to close, and she took it over, and it's been growth trajectory since then. So this is like a more established business. This is probably 20 years in business. at least. But this is kind of just an example, though, of how, as a local supplier, working with one institution can kind of open up either within a network of a food service management company that might manage multiple locations, or in the example like with us, where we are servicing multiple locations, and then we're able to kind of leverage that volume to make the price more worthwhile as you like expand into different markets. So kind of more advanced, but I think that that is something that we see is also possible for even things like with Chicago Urban Farm Solutions, like more of an intermediate size farm. We can do that same sort of catalytic if you get it started with one account. Other accounts can follow to support more growth of sales. And then now basically because of that demand and all of the positive feedback on the quality, which you can see some tofu prepared there on the side for a dish for the students that they serve in the dining hall. We're now looking into additional items like tofu noodles. So if you're a local supplier and you're starting with one item, this is also kind of an example of success in terms of getting more of your items into a food service location once you get that foot in the door.
Okay, so we're at the end. Thank you for listening to all of our stories. I wanted to point out before we jump into some questions that we do have a local supplier interest form there on the left side. It kind of walks you through some questions just related to some of the things that we ask when we're, getting to know new interested suppliers. And then also on the right, we have the feedback survey for the session through SIFPAC. And it would be really helpful to them if you could fill that out as well. But yeah, if you have any questions, please let us know. I think we have like a couple minutes. So.
Could I ask you a quick question about some of the like infrastructure that you guys use to facilitate these types of sales? Is that something that do you guys utilize already software that's already developed, or did you develop your own systems? Some of those like hard and soft infrastructure that you use for this service.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we have our own internal system, and we have a ordering platform to order with us as a distributor. But when we sell to, for example, United Center or Northwestern, they have a specific platform that their chefs are required to use. So we have an integration with those platforms from our own. So that is a piece that we also kind of handle that makes it easier for chefs to buy this type of product, is that you as an individual business are then not having to manage like all these different portals that chefs use to order. But on the buying side, when we buy from local suppliers, we basically have kind of like a standard setup where we just require we issue a PO and require an invoice. And so there isn't really like a online ordering element. It's typically an actual like conversation with the buyer, and then there's either email or text or things like that. So there's no like ordering platform from which we order from farms. It is, like more of a exchange with the buyer. Does that answer the question on both sides?
Yes, absolutely. It's really good insight to hear how you're managing that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
It's both. It definitely is the soft infrastructure, and we have tried. I will say, so like Windy City Harvest is an example. So if you're a smaller farm and you've maybe opened up an online ordering software for your clients to be able to order from you, so either from a CSA model or maybe direct to consumer, things like that. I will say that sometimes it's harder for buyers like us to order off of those platforms because we need like a specific type of invoicing and PO and like upon delivery and things like that. So I think we're continuing to look at how we can like still utilize systems like that if it benefits the farmer. But like that's something that we like typically don't use those as often as like a direct sale would, just because of our own systems compatibility with that. But that's something that like that's kind of why we have this like Elise and I are here to help navigate that process and see if we can like work with the buyers to work through special circumstances and things like that. So it's not just like it's not black and white. It really is like different for every supplier in some ways, because it is a relationship and we're working to make it work, and so are they. So
Alex, can you speak to the territory in which Midwest Foods works with? I know that we have people from all across the nation engaging today, which is great, but
that's amazing. Yes, we source locally from Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And we distribute to Wisconsin, basically those same 4 states, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan. But we do source nationally and internationally as well. So we do buy from farms from in all different parts of the country, not just locally. But I hope if you have questions for us too, like a lot of these things, we really did try to tell stories that we felt like could be models. So if you have questions about like how that might look similar in your region or things like that, or a similar type of sale or similar stage of business that you're in, we're happy to talk more to flesh that out.